What's up? Sorry, I'm a few minutes late, 5 minutes late. Still getting a little set up here. Okay. So, as you can see, maybe I've worked since the last time. I actually decided that I'm going to do a little more work in between so this can go a little faster. And then essentially, just when I come on to live stream, I'll just pick up wherever I am and explain things if I built stuff in between and show new things, which is kind of cool because that means last time I set up all these comments, which was kind of a big chunk. And today I'm going to set up upvoting on them, which is another big chunk. And what I skipped was styling this page up. So when we left last time, there was just kind of hodgepodge. There was like a weird button up here, and then I was listing the comments, and there was a fields right in line that you could add comments. So I don't know if I'm going to keep the design this way. I was just playing with it, but essentially I have more of like a call out to endorse it. And if you're not signed in, it's a different call out. And then I started styling up these comments just a little bit. They're not done. And today, part of it I'll probably put in the users too. But I want to do upvotes because I feel like that's more interesting. And then lastly, the other thing I did, and I also cleaned this styles up a little bit. The other thing I did though is I moved that form into like a light box or like a mode, I don't know what you call it. It's a panel that slides up from the bottom. So now if you click endorse, it looks like that. And the main reason I did it that way is because that's how it is on the live site. And I at first was just copying it, but I realized now, like from seeing it, there's a lot of different styles all over. So I'll probably change that later. But that was just to look like this. This is what the current site looks like. So it's a little different. I copied like half the styles. But anyway, at this point, it's all functionally working, and I'll continue to style it as time goes on. But what's up, Ken? But yeah, like I'll start in on the sort of meatier part of upvotes, which involves, well, there's some UI stuff. Like I'll put a button on each of these comments to upvote, but then it's a data collection, setting all that up, and then it's a little more intricate than just adding a record, because what I'm doing is I'm creating a collection that ties a comment to a user to an upvote, and then I'm saving a count of those upvotes for ordering. So there's a lot of things involved. It's a little more than just a regular, save to a database. So let's start. And I rearranged some of let me refresh this so the background class comes back in. I rearranged some of the workspace in here a little too. I didn't do anything. I just shifted the pages around. But I just felt like noting just now as it refreshes that it's starting to look like an application in here too now. So you can see there's like the sign up page, the main page, now these single pages, and I've got these header and footer components going. So I'm starting to see it laid out. And when I'm done here, this will just be a ton of pages all laid out. All right, so to start in to do this, there's the two steps. One side's the database, the other side's the interface. So I'm going to I'll probably just create the database structure a little bit first. And then as I create the interface, we'll link everything up. So for now, I have each of these comments is a single page. And I know I'm going to put a button somewhere on here. But for now, I'll just set up that collection. So I'll go up to collections. And I'm going to have two types of upvotes and maybe more in the future, I don't know. But you can upvote comments, and you can also upvote the software itself. So upvoting the software itself is a little different. That's why I'm starting with comments. Upvoting the software itself is going to tie in the Airtable record to a Builder user. But the comments is all within Builder, because the comments themselves are tied to Airtable, but the comment themselves is in actual Builder. So I'm going to have two collections ultimately, but this collection will be upvotes, comments. You could call it anything. I call it comment upvotes. That'd be a little more human readable. I did it because I'm going to call it upvotes _ comments and upvotes _ software, but totally arbitrary, just my preference. So we've got the default classes in here, and all we need for this table, this is kind of like a database thing. This is Builder or anywhere else. Basically, I'm creating a table that's going to store the user ID and the comment ID. And then I know that's one upvote for that comment. So all I really need, I mean, besides the defaults, all I really need in this table is a field called user ID and a field called comment ID. And that's all I'm going to do. When someone clicks upvote, I'm going to save that. When they load the page, I'm going to look for if there's a record with their user ID and the comment we're viewing, and then show whether they upvoted or not. And then the last step that I would want to do is in the actual comments collection, I'm going to add a new column, a new field for upvote count. So that, and I don't actually, so this is a field, it's like a helper field, because I could always count the amount of upvotes in the database, but that's like an extra network call when I'm running my application that's extra resources. So instead what I do is at any time, but I'm going to do this right after someone upvotes, at any time I can count the upvotes for that comment and then save the total in this upvote count value. So in the future, anytime someone upvotes or downvotes, or like, it's not really downvote, it's a remove your upvote. Anytime someone's status changes with their upvote, I'll just do a count at that point and save the count in here. And what that'll allow me to do is very easily order, like sort by the upvotes or output them if I want to just, you know, spit them out on the next to the collection, which I do want to. Oh, I'm sorry, not the collection, the comment. So that's what that field's for, but we'll touch that in a second. For now, I'm going to leave that. I just wanted to put it in there. And what we're really going to do is we're going to handle this new upvotes underscore comments column. So if I come to the single comment page now, I can start making this interface. Right now, it's just the title, and these are just the placeholder lines in here. What's great about it, which is the description. Who's it great for, which is the audience. So that's all that's there, and I need to figure out where the best place to put an upvote little up arrow and a total number of upvotes. But I also need to put in, there's author, and there's like a website for the author. I don't know if I'll keep that. It might just be like, because since they're more robust users now, maybe I'll have like the avatar image and name for the author. There's a verified message because I used to approve comments. I'll probably remove that, and then the date. And then here, currently, there's just a really tiny little upvote that I don't even think anyone knows is there or uses, but it is there. And if I remember correctly, it works. It might not even work. So what I want to do is something more prominent, and I don't know. I probably would consolidate the author and the date, and then maybe we'll see, because I can always move it later. So I'm just kind of thinking out loud, but maybe for now, I'll just stick a button in here and we can move it in a second. Because I'm really not sure. I think what my gut is telling me is like something overlapping here, or if their name is down here next to something, it has to be big enough. So anyway, for now, I'll just put a button. So I'll come into this container, which is the whole single comment card. And for now, just add a button into the bottom. And I can just label it. This would be upvote. So that's all I need for now, since I was gonna style that more, but I really couldn't decide where to put it. So that's all I really need though. Base level, I just need a button. And I come over to action groups, I'll create the action that actually adds the upvote. Taking a step, before I type this, taking a step forward, I also just know logically, I'm making an action to add an upvote. I also need an action to remove an upvote. It's not, like I mentioned a second ago, it's not the same as downvote exactly. There's not like a down arrow, but if you do upvote something and you change your mind, or if you upvote an accident, you need to click it again and then unupvote it. So I'm going to actually have two, mirrored action groups, one for adding that upvote and then another for removing it. So I'll call it like this: upvote add. And you don't have to make these like shells of action groups. I just like to, because I know I'm going to use it. And then that way, if I need to include that action in a conditional statement or in something else, it's there. But really, you don't have to create these. I kind of like bulk create the action groups. You can do it as you go too. So upvote add, when they click on this upvote, we know they're signed in, because I'm going to hide the upvote completely if they're not signed in. So we know they're signed in, and we know we're on the software page. So we know the user ID, we know the software ID, we just need to save it to that table. So all it is a data create record action. Just creating a data record in the collection upvotes comments. And then we just map the few fields that are there. So like I said, there's user ID, and then we're gonna map a field for comment ID. For the user ID in Builder, when the user signed in, we get a special collection called current user. And as far as I know, you might even be able to access it with a few other ways. Like you could probably just do the current data, the user's data collection. Might know, whatever. But point is, there's a shortcut. There's a lot of ways to do it, but there's a shortcut. So to get my user ID, I don't have to like query anything special. I can just come to, so I'm selecting the field user ID, and then I can just do from data collection and then choose current user. So it's like choosing the users and filtering by my ID, but different because it's easier. But that's what it does under the hood. It basically fills in this ID value. So let me think. Sorry, I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. So adding the comments, user ID, I get a field from the current user. I'm gonna get the field ID because that's what I want, which is just one record and comma separated. I think the way that you choose these settings and the way you output records is going to change a little in the pretty near future, because this is a little confusing. But essentially what I did here is I said I want just the ID field from the current user, and I knew it was going to return one record. So I chose comma separated for my data format instead of JSON array. And the reason is comma separated will give me just the ID value as a string, whereas JSON array would have given me an array that's like ID and then the value. In this case, I'm actually like checking, I'm saving this in the database. So for this user ID field, I want to save the value. So I don't want that JSON array. So I set it to comma separated. It's not confusing once you know, but before you know, that might be a little confusing. And then comment ID. So we're on the comment page, and the comment page has context as to what comment it is. So for the actual comment ID, I can do current record field value. And the current record is comments. So this page is getting repeated for every record of comments. So for the current one, we'll do the field ID. And so all that is to say, when we click upvote, it's going to create a record in the upvotes comments with my user ID and the comment ID. And so that's done there, like that would work. But right now we have no way of seeing that or outputting it. So all in one shot, we will add the comment, add the upvote to the comment, and then find the count, save the count to the comment, and display it. And that's a good way to just know that it worked. So I'm basically doing it as a test, but I need to do that anyway because I want to show the upvote button and also how many people have upvoted. So creating the record is always the same. When I'm doing upvote add, I'm going to use this action. And then the next step, basically what I want to do, so I save this first. Now as the next step, I want to query that same collection, and I want to count how many entries, how many records are in there for this comment ID and my user ID. Wait, not my user ID, just for this comment ID. So I'm just counting how many upvotes total with any user for this comment. And then I'll get a value for that. And then I need to save that anyway to the comment. So at the same time, like in that same action, then I'll save that to the comment. And because that's sort of universal, that's not specific to adding or removing. That's just querying for how many, saving the count. So I'm going to set that up as its own action group. And we'll call it refresh count upvotes. That's kind of a weird, I was naming the other one starting, whatever. There's not going to be that many actions on this page, so I don't need to be nitpicky, but I named the other one starting upvotes, different system. All right, so anyway, first thing we need to do is set a variable that's going to be the total count, because by setting a variable, we can pull information from the database. So we set a variable here, target page is current page, because we want to stay on that single comment record. Variable name can be anything we want, but it's specific in this case. It's an upvote count. I won't do this now because there's no need to complicate it, but there's an extra thing I could do here where if I make that variable name the same as the column name, which I think was upvote count with a space in it. If I made that the same, then I could actually do a little more with like auto saving this whole comment. Like there's things that could happen, which is sort of like an advantage Builder has. Builder like knows that context and integrates a little more, but I'm not going to do that in this case because I don't need to. That's like kind of overkill. So in this case, I'm just making up any variable name I want, and then I'm going to write that to the database manually. But basically I could have used the correct column field name there and then done like an auto save on the card, or there's other ways to do it. So I'm just going to call this upvote count, and then the value I'm going to take from a data collection, upvotes comments. And for this, I'm just going to do a count for this so I can get all fields, or I could just get ID. It doesn't actually matter. Maybe I'll just get ID just because I don't need to send in all the rest of the fields. Actually, I'm going to do all fields because there's only 3. But the key here is that I don't want to pull in just all the upvote comments, upvotes underscore comments. I want to pull in just the ones for this comment. So I add a filter. And the filter type, I keep and selected. You can do and or not and add a couple of those, but I'll keep and I'm really only going to add one filter. And I want to say we're going to get from upvotes comments where comment ID is current record field value comments ID. So that's similar to how we saved the comment ID. Like I just got it in the same way. We're on this page, so there is a current record. You know, we're in context of this. That's where I get it. So basically now I'm asking for upvotes comments, all fields where comment ID is the comment we're on, and the default is going to default to the JSON array. So that's what this variable will be. And so this really is not the upvote count. This really is like getting me like a list of all the upvotes. And so when I do the next step and save it, that's where I'll find the actual count. So what I did was I took this in. Now I have a JSON value. I can count how many objects are in that, or how many variables. I don't know what you call it. So let's see, refresh count. So we set the variable, and then the next step we'll do is we'll save that variable to the comment. So that's data update. We're going to update comments field upvote count, and we're going to get it from the variable we just created called upvote count. Oops. Only I'm going to add a path, and this is like the secret sauce that you might not know that eventually will be a pretty interface that you don't have to know and you can just click through. But if I add .length here, because I happen to know that's a valid path I can use, it'll tell me how many records are in that JSON. So that's actually the value I want. And this actually should be good in theory because it knows the ID because I'm on this row. If I try this and it doesn't work, I might have to also specify an ID here. In the future, you will not. If you're in context on a page of this, you will not have to specify that ID. But sometimes, every once in a while, it seems like I have to, so who knows. So anyway, this will work, or it should work, to update the upvote count. So the last step before we test is I'll just output the count, like right next to this button. So I'll do a text box, make it a span. And I'm going to bind this to the field comments upvote count. And I'll set the default to just say 0 so it looks a little more normal. And so in theory, now I hit upvote, it should save. I would refresh the page and that 0 should turn into a 1. I'll test like that, but I was going to say that the other thing we do is like last time, I can set up that data listener so that upvote count updates automatically. But for now, let's just see if this works in the first place, because I made a lot of changes there. So these all disappeared because there's no value for upvote count. So I know like one of the details I have to take care of moving forward is I have to say if there's no value, set it to 0, because that's what I'll want probably. But anyway, this one, real Airtable comment. Let's click upvote. I'm going to open the inspector just to see if anything happens. Oh, I forgot to bind this to the button, so actually nothing will happen yet. So I go to this button, I go to events, on click, upvote add. Oh, and then the other thing is in upvote add, I need to nest in that action I just made. So first we create the upvote, and then we refresh the count. And I'll put a wait in between. That way it waits until we created that record before it counts the total records. So now in here, nothing will happen. There's no data listeners live, so nothing will happen at first, but I can click this and I can look over here and I see a few things happened. Got my name, got my user stuff. Looks like it saved the IDs correctly. And this should be like everything. Then it got, well, who knows what that is. And then it saved the upvote count. Looks like it saved one. So it looks like, oh no, provide ID in JSON. It didn't save the upvote count, it looks like. So this will probably be empty when I refresh. And it's exactly what I said, which I do think it's a bug officially. I'm not totally sure about that, but basically I just need to include an ID. So on data update record, it told me the error message there said provide ID in JSON, which is really easy to add, but I think it's technically supposed to be there by default. So I just add the field ID and I set it to similar to how I set the comment in the other one, current record field value, comments ID. And then also I should put a wait in between here because I set the variable of upvotes. I have to wait before I update that record. So let's try this one more time. I'm not going to do network. I'm just going to refresh. All right. Oh, and that first one did save the upvote itself. So that's why it says 2 now, but it didn't save the count. And then when I upvoted again, it added 2. So now there's 2 upvotes from me on this. That's why the count is 2. But the upvote system did work. So you can see it looks crazy, but it's working. One of the next steps, maybe the next thing I'll do actually right away, is when someone comes to this page, we need to check if they've upvoted or not, and then switch that button so that there's no way to upvote twice. And the way I prevent that is if they have upvoted it, I switch the button to be like a remove upvote button. So no matter what, when they click it, it's only adding or removing and no one can double up. You can do other things too. Like I could check when you save it. I could check if one exists for that user and then remove it if it does. Like there's all different ways to handle this. I like to do it like really straightforward in the interface where there's an upvote button and a remove upvote button, like actions, different buttons, all that. So that's how I'm going to set it up. And I think it's easier to follow along with too. So let's see. So to check, I'll do the checking in steps because to check, I'm going to need to query the database and say, are there any upvotes with this currently signed, this currently signed in user and this comment? And then if there are, set a state that they've upvoted. So I'm going to do that first, but actually I don't necessarily want it when I run this live. I don't want it to do like a million network requests. Like if there were 20 comments on a page, I don't want to run 20 network calls. So what I might do, or what I will do after that is when the page loads, set an initial call to that network and bring back all of the comments for my signed in user, all the upvotes I have. Then every time this comment page loads, it doesn't have to query the network. It only goes to the cache because it's already got that information from the network. So that's one of Builder's superpowers basically under the hood, is that it's very smart about when it requests from the network. So you could make an app that you're building that has like 20 network calls, but if they're all going to return the same thing as the first one, Builder will only do that one network call. And it handles like a lot of edge cases and is really smart the way it does it. So it's really just an efficiency gain. So what I'll show that too at the end, which is basically I'm creating something that will work, and then I'm going to just show that little trick to make it slightly more efficient. First things first though, let's do the check. So I'll create my own action group for this. And basically I'm going to have to create 3. One action group that says check upvote status, another one that says set state upvoted, and another one that says set state like not upvoted. So we can do check upvote status. We can do set state upvoted. And set state not upvoted. I'm gonna actually rename these two. This is just add upvote and remove upvote, just to be consistent. Very nitpicky OCD thing, but whatever. All right. So let's see. Check upvote status. What I'm going to do is I'm going to query to the database and find if I've upvoted this or not. And the thing that I just need to know if there's one or more records, then that means I upvoted it. So I'm going to do the same thing I just did with that length, where first I'm going to set a variable. So I'll say current page, variable name is like current user upvotes. And then the value, we'll just run through this. We'll go data collection, upvotes, comments, and we'll get all the fields for now. And we'll say where user ID is current user ID, comma separated, and comment ID is current record field value, this ID. Okay. And so this will give me records from the upvotes comments table, if they exist, for this comment and my user. And then in the next step, I will get the length of that to see the number. So if it's empty, the length will be 0. If there's a comment, if there's an upvote, I mean, the length will be 1. So what I can do is do a condition. I'm going to compare values. I'm going to say if the variable that I just got, which was called current user upvotes, dot length is greater than 0. So what I'm saying is, current, what did I call it? Oh, current user upvotes. So first I get the current user upvotes, I wait, then I check the length of that response, and if it's greater than 0, I'm going to set state upvoted, because it found an upvote for this comment. If it's not greater than 0, I'm going to set state not upvoted. And so that's the logistics of it. The next step is to make something happen with those states. So, oh, well, actually, too, I should run this. So on page binding, after the page binding runs, let's just nest that in. Check upvote status. So after the page binds, then it'll check the upvote status. And if we find a length, we're going to set state upvoted. So when we set state upvoted, for now, just so that I can see it, I'm going to change the element value of the button, which would be this one. And instead of saying upvote, we're going to say remove upvote. And then for now, I'll test this to make sure that switches, but we also then need to make another action, or well, we made the shell of the action to remove the upvote. We need to fill that out. And then we need to also in this assign that so that we're switching what happens when you click that button. But I just want to make sure the first step's good. So I'll come down to a different, oh, and it is good. So I forgot, I don't even have to click it. So it found the status here because we loaded the page, it ran, it found an upvote, and it switched it. So I know the bones are working. So let's finish this out. So set state upvoted. The first thing we'll do is set the button text. And I'm probably going to change that. It's not going to say remove upvote. It'll be like maybe a different color or something. But for now, we can keep it like that. And then we add the action and we do set interaction, element set interaction. What that'll do is we can choose a different action, like this event is add upvote on this button, we can change it. So I select the button, the event code is on click, and then I can ignore key code because it's a click, there's no keys. Then the action, instead of add upvote, which is what it is now, we'll change it to remove upvote. So what it's saying is if they've upvoted, we change that action to remove upvote, and change the button text, to remove upvote, and change the action to remove upvote when they click it. So the action now we can create. It's similar to the add, but we're deleting one. So I actually don't know if there's a pure delete action right now. The current record. So this isn't exactly what I want because this is deleting the current record. If I ran this action, it would delete like this whole comment if I was on the comment. So what I really want is I'm going to update the record. And what I'm going to do is, and this is like sort of a behind the scenes builder thing too, that you won't have to know in the future, but that I know right now. If I set the value deleted to 2, it will delete it. If I set the value deleted to 1, it will archive it. You can get back, but deleted to 2 will delete it. So essentially I'm going to update the record, and I'm going to say where the ID is. Oh, I have to find the ID real quick. Actually, there's a step in between. So before I do that, I don't have to do this. Okay, I know how to do this now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, oh shoot, never mind. I do need to find an ID. So what I was going through in my head there is I need to find the ID, not of the comment and not of the user, but the ID of the upvote, basically. So this first one I made is going to have 2, so we're going to have to run it twice to get rid of that. But to find that actual ID, I have to set a variable. I have to actually query for it. Oh, you know what? I can use the other one maybe though. Check this out. So refresh count upvotes. We know it runs. We know it runs when the page, when that little card loads. And the first thing we do is we get all the upvotes. So we have a variable here. It's called upvote count, although it's not technically the upvote count. But upvote count should work. Let me think. That should be the ID that we can remove, basically. The reason I'm pausing is because I'm trying to make this not, like I could do this in a really fast way like that, but I don't want to be too tricky. I don't want to be like, make it so simple to build that it's really confusing to understand. But because I have that variable there, like I know I could just use it, but maybe I don't want to. The other funny thing is I have an upvote pattern. I just didn't feel like bringing it in because of that new environment, old environment. Same thing as the last one I brought in manually. I didn't feel like manually bringing it, so I just didn't. And now I forget how I set this up, but whatever. I'll just set it up this way for now, and we can change it later. So refresh upvotes gave me this upvote count variable. I'll just use this for now. And what I'll do is the action remove upvote. Oh man, I don't know if this will work. All right, I'll just try it. So we'll update the record, upvotes, comments, and we're gonna do it where the ID field equals current page upvote count dot 0.id, I think. Basically saying that if that upvote count, I know that it's an array of upvotes. So I'm saying take the first one and the ID field. I think that'll work. We'll see. And then set deleted to 2, permanently deleted. And what that'll do is that'll delete the record. And then we run that same thing where we refresh these upvotes. We wait in the middle. And then as a nice little bonus, just to kind of wrap that switch up, I'm going to do one more thing, which is when you refresh the upvote count. Oh, wait, actually, I don't need to do this, do I? Oh, okay, this is the only place I'm setting the state. So basically, I have a choice. When I click add upvote, as a last step in here, I can set the state upvoted, or, and then I'd also have to do it in remove at the end. I would set the state to not upvoted. Or what I can do is on refresh count, since they both run that, and since that's kind of like a single source of truth, basically, after refresh the count, I can set the status depending. So let's see. Oh, I see. That just does it twice. So I'll need to clean this up actually, because now that I'm looking at it, it's doing a lot of network calls, but that's okay for now, just to show that it works. Let's do, so we check upvote status, and that's actually what sets it. So after this refresh, let's just do check upvote status. And this will be like, this will check the upvote status where it has a network call. This is a perfect example of where it most likely will not even make the network call for this one because it already has it for some other stuff. So maybe I won't have to manually clean it up, but we'll see. And I know I'm going to do some caching and cleanup anyway. So that's a little more advanced, but so yeah, anyway, the whole point of adding that action in there was to refresh the state after you upvote. So after you make any change to that upvote status, we're going to refresh the state. And then I can't remember if I did every last thing in here. Like set state not upvoted is not set yet. So I'll just do the basic. I'll just do the whole thing actually. We're just going to set the value of that button to what it is now, upvote. And then we're going to set the interaction, which is very similar. Just choose the button, choose click, and then choose the action. So now we're setting the state if that is not upvoted. So the action would be add upvote. So first thing is upvote. This should add a 1 in here and refresh this button. All right, didn't add the 1, but that might be from the data listener. So let's see if I refresh if that says 1. All right, nice. So that's a data listener thing. I'll handle that in a second. And then if I click remove here, this is what we haven't tried yet, but this should remove the upvote. So it'll change this to just say upvote. And then when we refresh, this will say 0 or be gone. Didn't work. Great. Let's see if it actually worked behind the scenes. No. So, oh, and that I forgot. That was the weird thing we did. Remove. That's where I set deleted to 2 based on this weird like 0 ID thing. So maybe what I'll do quick, I'll just see what it's actually sending depending on what that is. I might handle in different ways. Oh, it's not getting the ID. Let me just do some wizardry here. I think you do that there. Oh, I did the wrong page. I just wanted to see upvote count 0 ID. I'm surprised that didn't work actually, because I did upvote count 0 .id. I don't know. All right, but that's okay, because actually, like, I should probably find that in a better way. I was trying to be a little slick there. Yeah, I'm surprised that doesn't work though. I don't think this is going to do anything, but let me just try this real quick just in case. I'm pretty sure I saw that it was an array and stuff. Yeah, no go. Okay. Basically, like what I'm avoiding or what I'm being lazy about doing is just pulling in, just like doing another request and pulling in the ID. So I'm just going to do it. It's actually, I can copy it from, I think, one of these. Oh, I see two. It's good. It's good I checked this because that wasn't my upvotes. That was just anyone's upvotes. All right. So let's set our own variable. So we'll go remove upvote, add action, set variable. And what I'm trying to get here is I'm trying to get the current upvote ID. So we'll do target page current upvote ID. Actually, you know what it really is it's really a comment upvote ID. So we'll go data collection, upvotes, comments. Actually, just need the ID where the user ID is me. You can see these settings are kind of like second nature for me, and they're not intuitive and too many clicks. So that process of just getting my current user ID will be probably actually one click in the future, but very, very many less clicks. And comment ID is current record field value, comments ID, and 1, comma. So what this will do, even though one of my upvotes, there's 2 of them in there, this will just give me the first value it finds. So I'll remove that other one twice, but this is perfect. That's going to give me the ID I need. I wait, and then instead of coming from this thing I made, oops, I remove the path and use comment upvote ID. Now, with any luck, it will find that ID and delete it. Looks like it worked. Or I mean, it did more than last time. All right. So now if I refresh, this will either say 0 or be nothing. 0. Perfect. And now I know this works now. So for this one, I can remove the first one. And this should say 1. And I can remove the second one. And now it'll be back down to 0. So you can see the bones are there now. It's the upvotes are working. So it's saving the total count, adding the upvote per user, like upvote, remove upvote. The one thing it's not doing, besides styling, which we still need to do, the one thing left is just to update this number in real time. And I do have the action refresh count. So refresh count checks upvote status at the end. So I could refresh the count. Ooh, actually, now that I think about it, I'm just gonna do this. So basically what I'm doing is I'm checking the upvote status after this is changed, after you click on either of these. There's 2 other actions where I'm checking upvote status. What I could do is just change it to say refresh count upvotes. But actually, instead of just changing it to say refresh count, so that'd be, oh, it does wait, what? Oh, okay. So I am refreshing count anyways. That's interesting because you'd think it would update that number. But anyway, the point of what I was getting at anyway is I'm going to remove these and change it to a data listener. So when I add or when I remove, I was doing that refresh count, which is here. And that is where I query the upvotes, update the count, and then update the visual status based on that count. Oh, you know what? I'm just never, that was all fine actually. I mean, I'm going to do it this way anyway, but I just wasn't updating the number visually. It was just already set. So I'll do that in a second. But I still need to remove those because what I was doing is I was going to remove them and then set it to a data listener, which means that if someone else upvotes while I'm looking at the page, that little counter will upvote for me, even though I didn't do anything. So it's a better way to set it up anyway, but really at the same time, I also forgot to physically update that number. So when I do this refresh count, first I get all the variables or all the upvotes as a variable. Then I save that variable, upvote count length. And then here, oh, I get it twice in a row. That's hilarious. But anyway, then here I'm checking the upvote status. So I don't need to get this twice in a row, but I query for it again. And then I say if these upvotes are more than 0, set upvoted, and if not, set not upvoted. At the same time I do this, I can also just update the count. So this page, refresh count, isn't actually refreshing the count. Yeah, I have too many calls in there, but I can put it on refresh count, so that's fine. And what I can do, that's bound. Sorry if this is confusing. I just like I'm going live with this. So this is bound to comments upvote count. So really what I need to do in order to update that is just add an action for setting the element binding, run bindings for element. And select the element of that counter. And whatever's bound here now, it'll just update. So I actually think that should work fine. There's so many ways to do everything, you know, to update that number. So looks like that upvote didn't even work because it didn't change. Oh, yeah, it's not even, oh, there it goes. That's strange. I broke it all. The the whole thing just doesn't work. Let's see if this fixes it before I move on. Yeah, weird. That's okay. It's actually the end of the hour anyway. I don't know what's going on there, but I bet it's a dumb move because what I'm doing is very straightforward. You just like set a binding and you just have it there. So I have those extra calls in there. I'll clean that up anyway. I think for next time, so I actually thought I would do comment upvoting and software upvoting today, but not even close enough time. For next time, I'm probably going to get through that actually because I want to move a little faster on this project. It's kind of what I ultimately decided. I've been thinking a lot about what's the best way to do this stream and what's the most interesting content. And I was originally trying to show like every last thing, but it's kind of cooler actually to just save. Like I'll just work on this as I would. If something good comes up, I'll just save it for the live stream and then do kind of highlights in the live stream. Like I think that was a good chunk, the upvotes. So next time I come back, I should have those all nice and cleaned up. And actually, good thing to mention too is I don't know if I'm gonna do this next week or not. We're coming into the holidays and end of the year stuff, and I really haven't decided. So that address at the top, the no-code-list-rebuild.builder.com, you can sign up there to get notified if I go live. I'll definitely notify before I do, and I'll send it out on Twitter, but just haven't decided yet. I might just skip it for next week. We'll see. But thanks for watching today, and if I'm doing it on Monday, see you Monday. If not, I don't know, maybe even see you like in the new year. We'll see how I feel. I'll just keep Twitter updated. Thanks for watching.